So first and foremost, very warm greetings on this day, which is an auspicious day to the majority of the population on this planet Earth. And warm greetings for being here on this evening, a great evening, and welcome to the second session of the Infoquest, all about past life regression therapy. So I'm sure many of you are not aware of this whole Infoquest session, which I have just recently begun a month back, and this is my second session. The whole aim of this Infoquest session is to create an interactive platform for anyone and everyone who would want to know about the subject, especially related to mind, spirituality, metaphysics, and of course, mind-body medicine. These are the subjects that I can say, passionate about. I have been training myself and learning myself to upgrade myself. So this is something that I thought I would love to offer to anyone and everyone as a free sharing of all that I know about these subjects, and in that process demystify a lot of myths around it, or if they want to get clarity about it, I'm available. So rather than having to address it one-to-one or people not knowing it, well, we will have more topics in the months to come, and I'm happy if you can also send me, some of you know me, some of you may not have my number, but you can always leave a message on this chat before the program ends as to the topics that you are looking out for to get clarity vis-a-vis the topics that I mentioned to you, everything about medicine and spirituality and how to work with that. So this is a brief introduction about the Infoquest session that I have just begun. The first one was on hypnotherapy. I have recorded it. If anyone wants to know, I will send it if you ask for it. And today's topic is past life regression and all about past life regression. So it's more of an awareness session. Some of them were asking me, are you going to take a therapy? I said, no. Therapy has a different space, and we can do it some other time, and especially not an online, because it's past life work. Though we do take sessions past life, but with a selected number of people and after having some understanding of what is their issue. So today I'm going to kind of bring some light to the subject of past life regression, which has a lot of connotations, though it has connotations and it is very popular in the last 20, 30 years. And most of you and many of you would have heard about the book, Many Masters, Many Lives, written by Dr. Brian Weiss. And that has gained a great popularity and brought the popularity of past life regression. That's one aspect of it. And I thought, let me just kind of address anyone and everyone who wants to know about what is past life regression. So the past life regression, by the way, it's also called as PLR. You might have heard about a lot of students who have learned it's a PLR. And for some of you and every one of you, there's also something called as PLRT. So there is PLR and there's PLRT, which is past life regression. And there is a little more clarity if you would want to have, because many of them can look at past life regression as also a therapeutic intervention. If I have to talk a little about me, because I'm sure I have not met many of you. Today's program has a lot of people whom I have met. Few of them I have met, many of them I haven't. So just a very brief introduction about me. I'm Dr. Ameeta Thacker. I am primarily a homeopath by my qualification. I've been practicing homeopathy even now. So it's more than 25 years. And I got into this field of hypnotherapy some 14, 15 years back, 2004 onwards. And I started exploring the mind sciences. I use the word mind science because coming from the field of medicine, I always wanted to explore something that makes sense to me. And yeah, sometimes you don't get the sense of why people are talking past life and hypnosis, which at that time was still very new. So I wanted to explore it, and I realized it's a science by itself, because anything that you can validate and prove is a science. I'm not getting into the details of it, how I went into it, but there are a lot of books, a lot of research studies done. So when I started exploring past life regression from, let's say, 2006, because that was the class that I attended the first time in past life regression, and from there on, it's an ever exploring journey. I am also associated with this institute, which is a pioneer in training in hypnotherapy and past life regression. So I am a trainer in hypnotherapy. I practice hypnotherapy as well as regression therapy. And I have explored more than one way of working with past life. So one way of doing past life, which is using the induction method. And I also practice the transpersonal regression therapy. So before I get into a little more nitty-gritties about it, this is the background. I'm also a trainer in regression therapy. I would like to now introduce this whole concept of past life regression. The word past life regression indicates past, going into the past, and going into the past life. Regression is going back. I'm not coming to past life regression therapy yet. Okay, so the therapeutic, let's understand, when we talk of past, the past may indicate something that happened yesterday, maybe last week, last month, last year, 5 months, 5 years, and maybe much more beyond that. But since the past life regression has become popular, we are now referring to past lives, which are previous lives, as well as it also includes the past of this life, which means when you were born or in your formative years. So this whole topic encompasses both, but I'm sure many of us are interested here to know what is past life, right? So my thrust will be on that subject. Now, before I go a little more into explaining about regression as a word, I would want to draw your attention to a very simple day-to-day life experience, right? So when you are relatively healthy and normal, and then let's say tomorrow you wake up in the morning and you start feeling tummy upset, or you are down with a headache, or you feel sad, and I'm assuming that you're healthy, everything is okay. What is your natural response to any symptom that you get in your mind or body? You would want to, in your own head, before rushing to a doctor, I'm sure most of you would not immediately rush, would give a thought at least once. What got into this headache? Or what got this tummy upset? Oh, maybe yesterday was Eid, I went and ate this, or yesterday was that, and it would be food poisoning. Then moment you get the connection to what led to that symptom in your body or even mind, let's say if you're very exhausted or you're feeling very irritated, you realize, oh, you're irritated because something happened yesterday or with my partner or with a good friend of mine, and I'm not in a good space. So there is a logical connection that you always are looking to explore whenever from no symptom state to some symptom that you are experiencing. And when you get a logical understanding or a correlation, you say, oh, it happened because of this. So I have a tummy upset because of food poisoning, or because I have a headache because, oh, I ate ice cream. It was very hot and I just gobbled up 2-3 ice creams and now I have sinus. So, I should be okay. Or maybe I lost a dear friend and I'm sad. And the moment you explore or you get to know, exploration comes with your thought, right? In your own space. And you recognize, oh, it happened because of this. Somewhere a little peace comes to you. And then you address that sinus or you address that pain, you address that sadness in the way, and it gets taken care of. Correct? So what are we looking at? We are looking at something which was uneasy, which I understood. I could then address it and it is brought to peace and I'm back to myself. Now, this is what is in our daily routine. But we also experience certain thoughts and feelings and emotions and certain symptoms, whether at the mind and the body. It is either a symptom in the mind or symptom in the body. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, physical sensations, We experience it, which keeps coming back and back, recurrent. The next time that you get it, you find out, oh, this has become so much a regular feature that you want to go and attend to something to bring it to peace, bring it to ease, because you are not at ease. So you go to a doctor, to the relevant doctor, who gives you some prescription on that so that it comes to an end. But the doctor doesn't just do a prescription blindly. A doctor would also go for understanding the symptom, yeah, and understanding to where it comes from. And he also has his knowledge to get a sense of it. He comes to a diagnosis. What is diagnosis? To come to the cause of the problem, the source of the illness. And the moment he says, don't worry, this is, migraine, this will be taken care of with this, or this headache is related to this, or this tummy ache is maybe because of this premenstrual situation, or this could be because of XYZ situation, and you feel at peace, isn't it? And then you take that medication, and yes, many a times you feel good. The burning in the stomach, burning in the chest, so many. I mean, there's a plethora of symptoms that we all have gone through, or even the sadness or anger or anything else. Now I'm referring to extending this conversation to the large number of symptoms. When I say symptoms, you don't even know sometimes it's a symptom till it really starts coming again and again and again in the form of maybe a pain at any level. It can be either at the physical level, it could be a physical pain which is just not getting addressed, even with your medications, the best of the medications. Very typical example of migraine. We all know that it doesn't have any reason or a cause. So the advantage for me is, because being a medical doctor, I have a fairly good understanding in that sense to diagnose the diseases at the medical level of diagnosis. And we recognize some of the medical conditions do not have a cause. And we are at the wit's end to find out how do we handle it, or we just keep, plugging the disease to keep it silent. Literally, that's what we have come across. And it continues more or less lifetime, or that's what the doctor says is going to remain. And we are harassed by it, but we don't know what to do. And that's where, when you don't know what to do, it adds more pain to it. I just now gave you an example 5 minutes back. If you suffer from something, if you're not at ease, the moment you come to know something, it could be anything in your life, anything, whether it's the relationship pain, whether it's pain in the financial area, whether it's in the physical pain. The moment you plug the cause of it, let's say you can't even plug the cause, you understand the cause of it. I'll correct myself. You understand, you get to know, and somewhere some peace prevails. Now you have only two possibilities. You either change it or you accept it. And that's how it starts kind of losing its impact on you. So there are situations in our life where they keep coming again and again and again at the body level. I'm not going to go into examples and all that, but we all can understand and correlate in our daily life. Symptoms and situations and feelings and sensations that keeps coming again and again and again. And that has no respite because you don't understand why they are happening to you. There is no logic for it. You cannot understand why they keep coming despite all your measures, whether it is at the physical level, emotional level, mental level, whether it is with respect to you, whether it is in the relationship. You wonder why this pain or this conflict continues to happen. And this is where there is a hope and there is a scope through the word of regression therapy. I use the word regression therapy because that's what my belief lies in. That's one of the reasons I pursued it, and I'm continuing to pursuing it. And I choose to pursue it to find this logical understanding to something that remains illogical in the space, in the form of a dis-ease. When I say dis-ease, I'm not including only those diseases which are in the medical world which are diagnosed as disease. There are a lot of diseases we have in relationships, in our financial situations, in our patterns of thought. You know, I don't want to think like that, but I can't stop it. In other words, there are repetitive patterns of thinking, feeling, and some of the beliefs that you carry. And that becomes a roadblock to your success, to your fulfillment. Who doesn't want fulfillment and peace? If there's one person here, I will stop. We all want it, right? And that's where when you come across these roadblocks which are unexplainable, which are illogical, is where there is a scope of exploring, and not exploring, but understanding. Exploring is to just find and then coming to some understanding of it. And once you understand it, as I told you, you can either change it or accept it. Now, certain things, you know, you can't go back into the past and change it. We are still yet to do that. But we for sure can go and know and understand it so well. And many times we understand, but we don't feel we are understanding because the body keeps showing up in some form. That's the interesting part of the software that we are as a human system, the hardware and the software that we are, that it keeps acting up till we really go and find that piece, you know, that some screw is misplaced in the hardware or in the software. The hardware is the body, the software is the mind. And that's where when you understand that and you slowly can accept it, is where that starts prevailing. And then you know that you are able to bring some change in response to how you have been feeling about it. So in short, the past life regression is about, most people know it's going into past lives. And many of us have been, I would include me, I would not shy from saying that, are disillusioned that going there into past will make me understand who I was. What did I do wrong? Yes, you may, you will, but there is something more that you can receive if you're willing to look at the past life regression as an opportunity to explore, to understand, and to come to peace and acceptance of what was applicable in that time frame, but unfortunately it is still lingering in your present, which means it comes to a very other extremely important part of past life regression. You know, many of my friends who have been with me in this field as doctors and my colleagues in different healing modalities, you say, why do you want to dig old skeletons? I said, I started doubting myself. I really mean to say that because I have been a skeptic. I said, yeah, why do you have to dig the old skeletons? Or is it really going to be, you know, helpful to just open up your past and bring all the trauma back? So the second important thing that you need to understand is, when I speak about the past life regression therapy, it is for the sake of therapy. Which means there are a lot of people who actually have been calling me for the good long time. Of course, now I don't get these calls. Maybe that they have got the message right from my aura, and nothing to scare you off. But it is not about going and watching a movie, because a lot of people say, no, I just want to see my past life. Can you take me? I said, yes, I can take you. It will cost you a bomb. Are you okay with that? If that curiosity is worth it, you're welcome for it. But the fact is, it's not just curiosity. Many of them definitely have something that they're looking for, which they are not ready, or they are just wanting to know what can be explored. So of course, I don't really dissuade them. And I say, okay, fine, but let me explain you a little bit before I get there. It would be nice if you have something to explore concrete. Huh? So you may have also noticed when you're in a very happy state, your inclination and drive to look into your past is zilch, minimum. Yeah, 0. Yes, I'm so glad Mr. Khanna is giving me, somebody is giving me some response, and Punita. So, well, you can now see that the regression therapy falls in the realm when you are again back in pain, which is in a way, it is where the scope is to where it can bring you relief. Now, this relief is not like a pain balm, okay? The pain balm or a painkiller. It's about the deeper pain that you experience in your mind and body. When I say deeper pain, because you have explored all the other means, I assume that most of you, which is why many of us have been drawn to that field of regression therapy and gone and opened up many masters, many lives, and whole lot of books that are related to past life. Where is the answer to my pain? So the past life regression is not just about digging the old skeletons. And I want everyone's attention here. It is about being able to discover, dismantle, and disengage the past, which is hovering and haunting in a very hidden way in your present. So if the present reality is awesome, that's what I said. Nobody would want to go into the past. Why should I go there? But if that present is sitting on some pain, and sometimes we are not, sometimes the pain is right in front of us. Sometimes the pain is coming from here. We can ignore it for some time. Sometimes it's coming from our back and it keeps pushing us and nudging us till you really fall down flat and say, oh, now I want to sleep. And sometimes you're sitting on the pain all the time, but you didn't have any time to really sit. You are busy standing and running in your life. Till you now sit down and say, oh my God, it's aching me. Even if I'm sitting and resting, why is my life aching me? Or I start listening to what my life is telling. And that's where you start having these ears, eyes, and sensations to start looking at something that's bringing in pain or not at ease. And you look out for all the other alternative ways that you have not been able to address this whole pain with. I mean, the known ways which have not helped you address. So the scope of past life regression is not about digging the past and looking and going into the past, but it is about that past which is haunting, hidden, buried in your present and not letting your present go ahead. And how would that help? Because we all have dreams. I think human machine, I would say the human being by itself is inherently have thoughts, feelings, emotions, consciousness. It's not a new word for many now. And it has dreams and desires. And dreams and desires are basically projecting yourself into future, right? We are all looking for happiness. And we all know happiness is within us. I think here we are in a mature space right now. And we can still have happiness with other person, but why can't I be happy? If I am happy with myself, why can't I be happy with the other person? The answer again would lie inside you. And that's where you open up this present and you kind of, it's like, you know, you're taking the carpet off the floor and maybe going beyond, going down in the ground floor and a little beneath. And that's exploring what is it that's not letting you feel at peace in the present. Because your present is the one that's going to create your future. So if the present is creating the future, because if I am happy, I can create something. Now that's again, I will have to take you into a different direction, but just in one line, on the planet Earth, if we are looking to create something in future, the creation is possible only with feelings. So what you fill in your creation with is what it creates as an outcome. So I create with pain, I end up getting pain. Or I create with any texture of emotion is what I get. This is just to give you a background of this work. The same premise, your present was the future for your past. So somewhere in the past, whatever I created unconsciously by my experience is somewhere not come to an end and is still leaking or continuing to come in my present. And that's where you see the past lurking on the present. Let's say you've been for a vacation last month. It was an awesome vacation. Yeah. So it was one of the beautiful memories. And if I ask each one of you, whatever that happened in that beautiful space, you would, suddenly your memory is going to that. So this memory is just recalling the information. Okay. It's different from remembering. Remembering is right now everything there. So we all remember facts. If I ask each one of you, what's your name, what's your full name, what's your father's name, mother's name, spouse's name, what's your date of birth, it's coming to us. That's what these people who are into, when they have these calls that we get from these credit card people, that, they're very checking in few seconds just to get the confirmation of who we are. And we can very well reproduce it, provided our hardware and software is intact. So we remember information and facts. Now, when I talk about the memory, and I'm bringing your attention slowly just by telling you to go there, your memory is bringing the experience from there to now. And it leaves you with a certain feeling and an emotion. So whatever that emotion it created in you, it remains. If it had been a joyful vacation, it brings joy and you are at peace. Oh, it was one of the best vacations in the last 3 years. Or maybe whatever lasts so many years. And it would not bother you. It just gives you more energy, more peace, and more settled feeling. But if there is a memory which is related to that particular vacation, which is not very nice, and it didn't end, and it was not resolved. Remember what I'm telling you. It is not ending well. It is not resolved. It continues to simmer in the background, like a background music. You may come back, you're back to your work, you're back to your daily routine, back to everything, but the memory remains. Now that's how we know the present life will definitely have an influence. When you're interacting with that person again after a few years, you would be like conscious of what they created in your past experience. We all know of that fact very well, which is actually going into recalling your experience. So there's a difference between remembering, which you can remember right at the click of the finger. I mean, then there is something called as recalling of facts, and then it brings up some information about your experience, and then you start feeling something. Now, if I take you a little more, I said, how have you been in your childhood? How was your first birthday? And slowly your attention goes to the experience of how it was celebrated. And something more comes up in that. And maybe what you are wearing. Are you all getting it? You almost start getting to feel it. You see it, or you hear somebody, they're all singing happy birthday to you. Now, this again is a memory which was stored by simply calling out the attention to that memory. It started opening that file. So we all are able to go back into the past with the attention and the thought that you give to it, and we can retrieve an experience. Now, when we talk about regression, we are talking about many of those memories, and maybe some more of them which we don't even have the inkling of it, which have been buried or suppressed. We say in the medical language repressed, because we have been disconnected with it, because we have forgotten very, very far back in this life. We don't remember how we were on the first day of the day we were born. Very few people can remember that. And you remember when it impacts you. At the same time, there are a lot of other memories that we as a soul, so besides the hardware and the software that we are as a human machine, that is, the hardware is the body and the software is the mind. That hardware and the software requires a fuel supply, right? Which comes from the source or the soul, which is for us, the soul in this realm. The soul carries the imprints, the impressions, the experiences when it comes from that life to this life. And those memories which have been again they have impacted, number one, those which have impacted, not addressed, not brought you peace, and not resolved. Just as the same memories that 1 month back vacation brought you in. but they are recallable. So past life regression is about addressing your present situation where you seem to be stuck, where you seem to be feeling, not being able to understand why that pain and suffering is there. It is absolutely illogical, because you can't get any reason of why you should be feeling it, yet you are feeling it. And that's where you let yourself from the present take back into a certain process which has an ability to access those memories, those experiences. And once you access those memories becomes like a mirror or a way for you to get through exploration and understanding of why it happened and what happened. And once you understand that, it brings you peace, it brings you some kind of an acceptance. And many a times it doesn't bring, because it leads you to a trauma. Because as I told, most people want to explore, though out of curiosity, there's something that they have this, that little itch to find out what is happening and why is it happening. And the moment you go there, you go to the source of that itch. And that source of the itch gives you the reference frame to what led to this. So you understand the what, the how, and maybe the why of it. And when you understand that pain is sometimes beyond your capacity to address, is where there is an intervention by a regression therapist to give you a space to release that trauma, which is at the physical level, emotional level, or mental level, which is what a regression therapist is trained for. So it's not just about taking you there, but taking you systematically there. I would use the word systematic, because I believe a regression therapist, as a regression therapist, the training that I have went through and a lot of my colleagues have went through is pretty unique. I'll tell you a little bit at the end, because that's the work that I align to when it comes to regression therapy. For all of you who are so curious about the past life regression, may not be aware, there are 6 ways of addressing a past life regression. Yes, I saw Punita's expression, and I know how and I align to one of them, or in one for a very definite purpose. And that does not mean I'm discarding all the remaining 4, because there are 5 to 6 reasons or 5 to 6 ways to do it. And I align to the 1 or 2 ways of it, which actually is the way where it is not about exploring for curiosity. It's not about telling you, see, this went wrong and this is why things are wrong and this is why you are suffering. So there is no sermon here in the name of a therapist who's telling you, Bura kiya hai, bura bhuktega. Matlab, it's not about that. For me, I never came from that space, and thankfully I didn't get pulled in that space. Thanks to that part of me, which is a logical side or a skeptic side. And there's also a side which is intuitive and which is very sensitive. And I explored only through this particular regression work. So if I'm not very digressing, I'm just giving you the whole spectrum of past life regression work, and the spectrum of past life regression work, which many of you would have been exposed to, would be falling in the realm which is not about only therapeutic, or which may not be delving in a specificity of its work from a therapeutic angle, because most of us are curious to know and see. And what a regression therapist is trained for is to very systematically, very safely, very gently take you to the process, bring you to the source of it, look at how you are relating to it, and using the therapeutic skills, addressing it to release the pain or free you from the trauma of it. The end outcome is you are free from the trauma, which was actually in some other time and space, which is still having its impact now. It's like you saw a Ramsey horror movie 10 years back and you're still in the grip of it. Many of us have that, right? horror dreams and then I'm afraid to go there, which means that past is still haunting you. And we all have been aware. I think many of us are this population is growing to be an aware population, that the benefit of living in the moment, in the present, and being in the present is about being able to respond to what is happening rather than having a distorted response to what is happening outside, which means many of us are aware or not aware, but we may be reacting from our past even in the present. How much ever I say, I know how difficult it is to free our past experiences to color our present. Okay, I'm repeating it again. How much ever I say, every one of us have felt in different degrees that even if you want to, you're in the grip of the experience of the past, which keeps making you react in the present. So there is a scope of reducing this intensity of reaction, of more or less neutralizing this reaction and be more present to what is happening. We cannot change our past, but we can change our response to the past. The end outcome is we are more present. We are fully present to take care of our future and maybe open up to something better. That does not mean the life will change next day. It can change, by the way, but it may not in some cases, depending upon what has been the hangover of that past, because now we will go into a wide spectrum, which is not the day-to-day. Maybe if people are more interested, I will get into details some other time, because that would bring the topic of something to look at karma in a different way, something to look at the soul evolution in a different way, which is a very, very deep topic. But in short, how can we be free ourselves of the weight of the past that we are carrying in the present? And how can that help us to live out a future which is relatively pain-free? We have often heard pain is inevitable, suffer, right? But you have a choice to continue to suffer. Suffering is a choice and it's optional, but there you can live with the pain and you can learn to live and let go of it as the time passes or as your consciousness grows. So the long and the short of it, coming back to the past life regression, is about going back from the present. People say only back is past. No, it's going in the present to that past of you, which is still not letting you be in the full presence and the present moment in order to create a future that you would love to be, that is fulfilling. And so we go into regression. And when I talk of regression, I told you how different it is from remembering. Remembering is you just remember everything right now, whatever. But as the time passes, your memory lapse happens. We are lucky that, you know, that memory lapse keeps you away from putting all those things under the carpet. And which is what we say suppression or repression. So once you start having a memory lapse, sometimes you have to really scratch your head and say, okay, what is that? What is that? You know? What was that experience? You may feel the pain of it. You may feel the shade of the experience of it, but you may not know exactly what happened that led to that pain. And that's where you slowly grow from recall of that experience to regression. And when you go into regression in the past, which is going way back into your childhood, sometimes in the intrauterine life, and beyond that in your previous human experiences, and sometimes in pre-human experiences. I'm not going very far. I know it will bring up a lot of curiosity for all of you, but there's a scope to go that far, going into previous human experiences to see how it has impacted you. So the route we take is not taking you through your body, but through your mind. That brings me to a little introduction to the mind for some of you who may not know what is mind. The mind is a very, very interesting, unique, and a complex feature that we all have. I call it as a software, the body is the hardware, right? And this mind has also two parts. It has a conscious mind that you are actively thinking, processing to everything that I'm telling you. And you keep using this conscious mind when you're doing some work, when you have to do some activity. There are a lot of times during the day you do things on autopilot. Have you noticed that? You are automatically doing things which you are habituated. Cooking, if that is what you do every day. Driving, if that is what you do every day. So I'm not giving you more examples, but you know that there are certain activities, and there are certain activities in your body which are autopilot, involuntary in nature, which are also, so all those autopilot activities that you have been trained to do it on an autopilot mode, and something that your body is carrying as an autopilot mode, are in the control or are in the realm of the subconscious mind. And everything that you do actively processing is the conscious mind. If you want to know a little more about it, I can also give you the reference to my Infoquest session 1, which is hypnotherapy, where I really spoke a little more in depth. Right now, I'm just in the context of the past life experience. You need to know that when we go into past life regression, we are doing a mind travel. Now, what is mind? It has conscious mind, it has subconscious mind. 10 to 12% is the conscious mind, the 88 to 90% is the subconscious mind. What does the subconscious mind look like or feel like? You can't see anything, but you experience it by what you do in your daily activities and involuntary functions in your body, or your involuntary autopilot trained activity and your autopilot behavior. You always, we all know each other by the way we behave, right? We recognize, oh, he's an angry man, she's like this, and we identify the behavior with the person. Have you ever thought, that this person is not what that person is called by the behavior? Because you only remember that person as a soul, unfortunately, when he goes off to grave. You say, may the soul rest in peace. We all become saints suddenly around the time of death. But the fact is, we all are soul, spiritual beings with the experiences that we have, which have got us into a certain kind of a behavior. Now that behavior has become a part of our pattern, which could be thanks to this life, formative years, because that's the basic or the bed of our personality, the source of it. But many a times we carry impressions from the past lives, which has carried forward in the soul realm of this life to choose a certain set of experience, so that the soul has chosen this for the sake of learning, for growth, for evolution, to free from that particular pattern. And hence, when you start growing and evolving, you are not the behavior that you are called as a person, but you are the soul, and you can live out that essence. And we miss out that when we are looking at the subject of past life regression. For the longest time, in the first 5-7 years, when I started this work, and also my interest was, oh, who's my soulmate? The soulmate business has made popular the past life regression. And unfortunately, if any of you is here for that, I am the last person right now. Though I do connect with all of you right now, you are in this time frame, my soulmates, in this time frame. And some of you have been with me, like Shirley, I know, Punita, I know, and of course there are a few more people whom I am seeing here. They are my mates in this life for a good long time. The time and space that makes you your soul companions. But we are all in the illusion of that Yash Chopra romance to find, and possibly he's the culprit to do that. Just joking. So rest his soul in peace. But we are all looking out the past life through the lens of only soulmate. While it's not about, in my perspective, there's a broader perspective to looking at past life regression. And hence the regression is about really recognizing certain limiting patterns in your behavior, in your certain relationships which are not going okay, or certain relationship. Our relationship is not always with the person. It can be relationship with you. It can be relationship with finance. It could be relationship with the society. It would be your relationship with success, your relationship with failure. Many of them do feel that despite everything, I'm failing. And you would be surprised, it's not about the failure, but somewhere in that past life experience, there has been a very traumatic memory with the success. Because when I was a successful doctor, I felt helpless when my wife was dying and I wasn't present. And I decided I don't want to be like this in this profession. And then I don't want to be this. And I don't want to be even successful, because it was a shame Now, these are like, there are one example that I can tell you. There are several of it in different areas. You know, a lot of people feel they are betrayed in a relationship, or they're afraid to trust, or there are a lot of people who feel I cannot feel committed. It's not easy for me to be in a committed relationship. Oh, otherwise it's all okay. Or some of them have recurrent issues in the body, and nobody thinks about, when there are issues at the body, that there could be some hardware software issue, which is the virus coming from somewhere in some other software, which was across time and space, and it's getting launched here and it's embedded here, and it's kind of creating aches and pains all over. So there was an experience of a young guy who was, again, quite in his own ways, very healthy, very loving guy, was going through a huge pain in his every area of the life. And we realized he was going through, he had almost come out of a divorce. He was suffering with ulcerative colitis. He could not sleep. You name one area of his life and everything is not okay. And interestingly, when we could regress into a couple of lives, and just couple of lives, a lot of sense started coming to him as to his relationship with his ex-wife was actually coming from his past life. He could not sleep because he was a soldier in the Vietnam War who just could not accept that I'm dying. I can't accept, because he was somebody who was appointed the leader of that particular regiment, and he was kind of making all the possible efforts to, hold the ground. And then he was shot, and there's a story long and short of it. He died, and he was not even lying down. He was sitting like inclined with his ammunition, and he said, I can't die. And this guy couldn't sleep. Death is a mini, or rather sleep is mini death, and vice versa, because it allows you to breathe out and let go of the pain that particular person was carrying in that mindset around the time of the death. And then also what happened around the time of the death, while he was dying and he knew that he was feeling helpless, his whole heart went on to that little girl who was 6-year-old and whom he had left at home. And interestingly, that 6-year-old girl, which he saw there, was the wife in this life. And howsoever there was no compatibility at that time, he just survived, and he took care of the wife in the best possible way, till he realized that, I'm sabotaging myself. And he had to let go of that relationship, because it was more like a father-daughter relationship rather than a husband-wife relationship. So anyway, there's again a long story out of it, but this is one example which actually spoke about all his financial reality, his body. He was going through ulcerative colitis, which more or less stopped after that, and a lot of things changed. His relationship, of course, he came to know that I have to now bring it to an end, consciously and subconsciously. Many times you want to consciously bring an end to something, but something in you just can't let it go. And that's the part of the subconscious, because the subconscious mind carries the storehouse, or rather it's a library of your experience. The library of the experiences are from this life, which we call as the modern memory, and it has a primitive memory which carries the library of experiences from your previous lives. And in those lives, if the dying moments have been extremely painful, or if there have been traumatic episodes in that life, and the life ended on a note, oh, it's not worth it, or whatever it may be, quite likely that it gets carried forward through the soul into the life that you are now, and bringing up its own patterns of expression through mind and body, resulting into a disease that may have its label as a disease in the medical literature, or it may not, because it would be a disease because the mind is just can't move beyond. You're stuck somewhere. There is, as I told you, they are stuck. There is no explanation. It's illogical. So that brings us to an understanding that the regression is done through the mind, through the subconscious mind, entering into the library of experiences, those library of experiences where that experience of that life ended on a certain painful, unhappy note. Can you now understand why we all say, may the soul rest in peace? And we only want the soul to rest in peace once he's passed away. How about we all can pray for everybody's peace right now in this moment? So there are some interesting myths that we have carried as a ritual. And that's what I learned actually, not that I'm telling you all that you are, but this is what I learned being a regression therapist. This is what I carry being a regression therapist in my daily life. I would rather remind myself, how can we be as a contribution to the soul? Even if they are alive, I can't change somebody's destiny. I can't change my destiny, but I can at least work on understanding the nuances of their destiny, or rather acknowledge it and say, okay, fine, if this is my past life issue, I'm willing to look at it and see what else can I choose to respond. So this suddenly starts giving you the power in your presence. How is it done? It is a technique which is done in a very simplistic way. It's about going into an experience. There are different methods people do. One is taking you through an induction route. Like induction is going from the conscious mind, because we all are in the conscious mind right now, right? Even if I say, you will not believe that you can go into your past life in 5 minutes. But there is also a way that we do it, which I'm not going to do here, because as I told you, we do it with a certain basic preparation or a certain understanding. But there are different ways one can take someone into a regression, and it can be done through a systematic way of induction from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind to that specific thing that you are looking for. The other very important hallmark of past life regression is, I want to see this. I want to know why things are not working. If you go to a skilled regression therapist, they will take some time to understand, to really come down to the crux of your issue, and they will zero down to something specific. I always give my patients an example. I said, see, I need to understand a little more about you, because if you have to today open the Google page, okay, and if I write Punita there, I'm going to get thousands of Punita. I write Punita Arora, I'm sure I'm going to get hundreds of it. I write Punita Arora in Mumbai, I will still get 40, 50. I write Punita Arora lawyer, I can get 5, 10. Less, or maybe just one. But if I miss A, I know Punita Arora is also there, and I may land up somewhere else. So, you know, the regression therapist is skilled, or rather a skilled regression therapist. I would say that there are many regression therapists. I don't want to call names. I don't want to judge anyone, but just for your, just a minute, I'm going to put my laptop on a charging, which is, I think, so what we are doing is basically getting a prima facie information and trying to get to the crux of your issue. We call it as an issue, so that we can look into where that source of the issue is. And sometimes we look where the source of the issue is in your tissue. The tissue is your body, not the tissue paper. Because it is been known that those issues which you have experienced in your body will be explored through your body. Like we all feel, right? And we all have emotions, but there are certain emotions you feel it in your body. So we generally use, so when I talk about we, I'm talking about the regression therapists who are into transpersonal regression therapy. We really look into exploring those issues which are experienced at the feeling level in the body, and we start taking that as a bridge. It's like a subway, it's like an underway. Underway is going deep down and going to that other end where exactly precisely the same emotion was felt. You know, many of the regression therapy that I have come across through my clients who say, oh, it didn't work, yeah, it's all, I don't want to go there. Quite likely have not been dealt in the manner that it could have dealt the specificity of the issue. Because imagine if you are, that's what I was giving the example. If I have to type Punita Arora, there's so many of them. So going to that specific life in the past, whether it's the file in your childhood, or I'm more so talking about the previous life, if you have to go to that specific life or lives, then you have to be so specific as you are giving a command in a Google to that specific thing, experience that you want to find and regress to, which is the job not of yours, but of your regression therapist. And I'm repeating again, a skilled regression therapist is trained for that. So it's up to you whom you meet, where you meet, and I leave it to you. But there are a lot of regression therapies which fail simply because they're busy trying to explore something in the past and bring to end to. It's very easy. And many of them have come back and said, isn't it a mind game? In fact, they even tell me. So my answer, or am I imagining it? So, well, number one, you have to understand one thing, that there's a very thin line between imagination and reality. And this is not me telling. This is not me telling as a regression therapist. This is scientists having done experiments to identify this. There are experiments coming from Einstein and so many other researchers and so many other trials which have done, which have found the power of imagination. So I always tell them, when it comes to past life regression, I am past life regression therapist, which means my first dharma, my first aim is to bring you peace to your situation. Of course, it is between like a mutual understanding between the client and the therapist. So if they ask me, oh, do you think it is real? Do you think it is existing? And my questions, my answers to the question will be, I'm your therapist, and whatever comes from your mind and wherever is the source of this issue in your mind is what is my aim. And how can I know it's real? Because I'm feeling in the body. As I told you, we follow a route where your issue is felt in your tissue. The tissue is the body, which means you're feeling it. I feel some pain. I feel some experience. You know, there are emotions. Sometimes you feel it in your body, some heaviness, some tightness. So that's what we are trained for, to explore specificity of the issue that you come with. And with that, it is a short way to find out where the origin came from, that previous life, because it's 99.999% will go to that specific experience. The chances are less it will go somewhere else, unless there is something that is hijacking it. We are not going there again in much details. But a trained therapist is known to find that exact premise of connecting your present to that past, which means when that past opens up, they are also trained to deal with how you can make sense out of it. So they are not giving you any suggestions. They are guiding you with certain questions in a very, very unbiased way to come to unfolding of the story which has been stored in your subconscious mind. And that story is an experience as a thought and a feeling. And every feeling, remember, every time in your life when you felt something, don't you come to a conclusion or some decision? I will do this, now I won't do this. Because we are adults with thinking and feeling machine. You can't separate your thought from feelings. So when you explore that particular traumatic experience in the past, or that particular life, the way it went and the way it ended, it itself starts opening up a revelation or an awareness and clarity. What remains in some cases is some pain, which the therapist is trained to release and free you of the pain, and very systematically and safely bring you into the present. And besides that, also looking where and when did that get activated in this life. So every past life will also have an entry point in the present life. It doesn't come from air. That's another hallmark of the regression therapy that I work with. That is called as transpersonal regression therapy. Because, something will come into your experience because there was a hole in the wall or there was a window open that you were not aware of. In other words, whatever that got in this life out of unawareness, and that also brought in everything from that unaware hole and window, is actually what you are unaware of. If you are known, you would have never been there. And hence, in that unawareness, traumatic situation, whatever unaware thought, feelings, and emotions, and whatever unaware conclusions that you made has resulted into what you are concluding and deciding even this life and continuating it. Am I making sense? And that's how your present is connected to your past, and your therapist will bring you back to your present with a much more of you who is aware, and much more of you who is in the body, free from the pain of that past. You're cleansing it off. I generally give them an example. I say, if there is a leaking tap in your one of the restroom, right? And you are obviously not the plumber. So you will call up, and for a moment you will plug that, right? You will do some kind of jolt, you will plug it. And then you will call the plumber. So at some point, the regression therapists are like plumbers. Or rather, they know exactly how to tap in to go back to the source of it, which means sometimes it could be in the pipeline, sometimes it could be from the tank above in your loft, or it could be from the main tank, or it could be from somewhere else. But yes, when you really clear that, the whole line gets cleared and the water flows smoothly with the same water it is meant to flow. It is not colored with something else. There are no flowery things painted in that water, which only means your soul gets a way to undo the weight of the past that it was carrying, and it can shine more in that area because it's not clogged and not clouded by the perceptions of the past. So to come to that understanding again, the past life regression is regressing to the experience which you have felt it. When I say you, it's a subjective experience. And so for a given experience right now, there are every one of you here looking at this experience in their own ways and shades. And that makes it your experience. So a regression therapy is also a subjective experience. And many of the times when they feel, oh, was I really regressed? I let them know, one, I'm not trying to put their question away, but I want to bring them what they have come here for. Some change, some freedom from something in the past. So that's my first priority, because there are a lot of researchers who have already in the past and maybe even still in the present trying to research on the actual facts of whether there is a past life or not. And there are books written on it. So I'm not a researcher, I'm a clinician. But having said that, there is always a itch. You know, worm in kida, we say in Hindi, we want to scratch and see whether what I'm doing, and which I also had. So I actually went and started reading whether it is really a fact. So well, there are a lot of people who have regressed, and quite a few of them have been very curious and very scientific bent of mind and went and explored their past lives. So besides the evidence that their pain in the body is relieved and it is gone forever, that's one of the biggest evidence that they get. Sometimes if those facts that they have regressed into have been really there in the history of the world, then they go, like the Vietnam War was real, right? We all know it. It was a fact. So they would Google and find out. There was some client of mine who is right now also into acting, and she's just not able to make her, career through acting. And she regressed as a very popular heroine of that era, and she died. She was extremely successful, but the last 10 years of her life were loneliness. And then I was like, okay, am I really? I also didn't know whether it's the same heroine, because she gave me the name of the person. I said, okay, I'm going to keep all those things aside. My job as a therapist is to slowly take through every event by event and find out what is the pain which is connecting to the present. We resolved that. The moment she got out of the bed, she said, the first thing I want to Google who this name is, because she didn't know. She's a young girl. She Googled it. It was interestingly there. And there was some real facts that was mentioned in her story were actually there in the Google information. So this is just one example. But there are quite a few people who have evidence that there is a past life and that was a real thing that they went through. Some of them are not able to trace it. Some of them may still wonder. I would only say, in Hindi they say, "Aam khane se matlab hai, gutliyan ginne se," something like that. Which means it's what are you benefiting from the experience, and your contract and your objective for meeting me is to free you of a certain pain and trauma. If your mind has even imagined it, at some point you can only imagine what is within you. Or for those psychologists who are here, there is something called as collective unconscious. So you're tapping into the impressions and the imprints of your unconscious. For people who have a certain bent of mind through their religious belief, like for example, Islam as a religion doesn't believe in reincarnation. Ultimately, it's a theory of reincarnation. So I'm slowly going from therapy to some little information that you all would be curious to know. Hindus talk about reincarnation. There's a theory of reincarnation. We are born and brought up on this karma story. In fact, we have a lovely lawyer who is sitting here, and we say, "मैं गीता पर हाथ रख के कहता हूँ, जो भी कहता हूँ मैं सच कहता हूँ." And why do we do that? Which means the mass consciousness has some faith, which is one step beyond the belief. Then there is a religion which doesn't believe. They say Quran pe haath rakh ke kehta hu, because Quran says that there's only one life, and we are not going into that, but they believe in having accumulated the experiences of their forefathers and ancestors in their own DNA. So your DNA, which is the genetic material carrying the memories of your own self, which is coming from your ancestors and your forefathers and from your any lineage. And when they go by that faith, they also have been able to regress into certain experiences. They gave it as their forefather. It doesn't matter. As I say, it's not mattering whether you are counting those beans that you got from the fruits, or you're tasting the experience and getting the juice of the fruit out. So the fact is, the reincarnation is a theory. The regression therapist is also building a certain assumption. And the assumption is not on a loose ground. There are certain relatable facts, and there are relatable facts from religion, but that does not mean I am promulgating a belief of religion. But even from the psychology perspective, we know, if you talk of Jung, you have heard about Jung, Carl Jung, Freud, they talk about the collective unconscious. And there are a library of experiences from the collective unconscious, and we all are carrying the conditionings of those experiences or archetypes of it. So even if your mind takes you there, you are going through a story of an archetype that you are so connected with. But why are you only connected to only that archetype and not anything else? So that's something that we kind of give as an explanation to people who are very curious and a little, questioning it, because the focus is therapy. The therapy is about taking you into your unconscious, forgotten, hidden, buried, repressed experiences of life or memories that you are disconnected with totally, but could likely to have the source of your issue, which you are still feeling, experiencing in your tissue, in your mind, in every part. And that's where we go into regression. So there is a solid basis and there is a solid way to addressing that issue. And when I say a solid way, I will always ensure to remind you, a skilled therapist. A transpersonal regression therapist has a certain way of looking regression therapy, because they believe it's not your past that is in power of you. If the personality who is in the present moment is not in charge, that's because the past taking over you, and they are trained to take you off the load of that past and fully be there in the present moment with your presence to respond. So we are not justifying your actions here. By the way, many of the people use past life regression as a justification. Hello, it's not a justification. It's about simply understanding it. Of course, it justifies your pain, but you can now learn to respond and act with awareness through that pain. A very renowned psychologist, Carl Jung, again has spoken that whenever your unconscious gets conscious, it no longer remains as fate. This is a psychologist talking. And the role of regression therapy is to bring conscious awareness of your unconscious thoughts, feelings, emotions, experiences that have been coming from your past, which you may have forgotten, which you may have repressed. And there are reasons why it happens. It's a very natural mind mechanism to stop, putting it under the carpet or stop thinking about it. That will take us into the realm of psychology, which I'm not going there. So everything that is shut down, repressed, hidden, buried is what is accessed through regression therapy and brought to your awareness. And when awareness comes, you get clarity, you get understanding, and then you bring peace to your own self. And that's how there's another feather that is in the cap of the regression therapy, especially the transpersonal regression therapy. It brings one step ahead in your soul evolution. So this is in short, or I've tried to make this whole understanding of regression therapy as concise, as precise, as factual based, as theory based. I think it's 8:58, and I'm very grateful to this audience who've been patiently listening. And I hope you all are awake, so you are behind the shut screens. What I'll do is I'll open this forum for any questions, because my time was to come from 7:30 to 8:30, but I think I've extended beyond the limit, and it's not fair. I love talking about this subject. I have been practicing it for quite a few years, so the faith in this work as a therapist is growing more and more. Yes, I'm open to any questions that you may have on this. And yes, Mr. Khanna.
I sent one question along with the registration. Can I repeat it?
Please come again.
I will repeat my question. I sent it along while doing the registration. If for the past, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Yes, I can hear you.
For the past around 13 years, actually 13 years ago, I was exposed to spirituality by a Jain guru. And I started doing a lot of meditation and all these things, reading also. Past 13 years, I've been trying very hard to get into spirituality, but I could not make much progress, you see. I want to know the reason for that. According to Jainism, it is theory of karma. There is an antaraya karma, which stops you from doing anything good. Now, I would like to hear from you.
What I understand is your question is, for the last 13, 14 years, I'm exploring to be on the path of spirituality, and there is something stopping me.
Yeah.
And you have been using the route of meditation. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no harm in that. A lot of people who have been meditators, they can access their lives. I'm digressing a bit, but Buddha has regressed himself. So if you are not able to do that, that's also explaining why many a times you take years and years, which is what yogis did, to meditate and find their cause. Or that's what Buddha took so many years to, kind of get nirvana. But fortunately, we have regression therapy that can kind of, I'm not going to promise anything to anybody here, right? But there is a scope to bypass that. And bypass is not shortcut, but understand how can you really get one step ahead. Because spirituality for me is, sir, again, a very big topic. And I refrain from, spirituality is a big word. And in today's scenario, it's like, it's very vast. So if you, as I told you in the session, we need to specify what you mean by spirituality. Where is it that you feel a kind of a block? And when we have that discussion at that level, then maybe we can explore it through the regression route, or something else can open up. So at this point, I can only have this answer in this manner. I hope it has somewhere satisfied you. At the end of the session, I'll send you my phone contact on the chat. If my friends are here who are here to help me, can help me with writing down my email address and the phone contact, you can write to me, and we will see if we can explore a little more in depth and find out if there is a scope here. Is that fine for you, sir?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. I know you've been so patient waiting till all the people came, and this is the best I can let you know. Did this session serve you in getting some answers to what you were looking for? Yes?
Yes. I ask one more question.
Yes, please.
Well, you said that body is the hardware, mind is the software.
Yes.
Then what is the soul or consciousness?
It's kind of a, okay, so the consciousness is everywhere. It's the unlimited energy source from where you have the soul. Which is your
soul. What is the soul then? Hardware, software.
It's your power supply.
Power supply.
Yeah.
Right.
So from that infinite source, infinite reservoir of consciousness,
Yes.
we all are conscious beings, and then we have started taking forms, and the forms have taken forms in the form of soul. And then, of course, we have got impregnated with the mind based on our previous experiences, and we are continuing with the experiences from one body to another. And I think we are all in the curve of an upward curve, which is why the past life regression is getting more popularity. I see that because we are shifting in our consciousness as an earth. So I'm sure most of you here are quite aware souls who have come here. I would love to see you all at least for a moment on the screen.
Yeah, Dr. Ameeta, can I have a question?
Yes, please.
Regression is only successful if you're able to see your past, or you can at least feel it. But if you can't do anything, either both of them, then how to see our past and, correct it? What is the block there? Why is this happening?
Okay, so what I get from your question, Pala is the right way to pronounce?
Yes.
Yeah. So is that the one that you can't see and you can't feel? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So here, if you can't see and feel, it is indicative of a certain experience where you have stopped seeing and feeling. Otherwise, the logic says that you are a human being, and a human being has senses. So I'm glad you asked this question, because when you are regressing into a past life or any experience for that matter, you are accessing that experience through your senses. So how many senses we all have? 5. We see, we hear, we smell,
Touch.
we feel, touch.
Yeah.
But then the visual is the one that takes up the most of the messages coming from the environment. But for some reason, if a certain experience from your remote past where you have stopped seeing, which could be being a blind person or blindfolded because of some reason, or maybe because some trauma happened in the eye, or somewhere some oath or a vow or some reason that could have told you that I don't want to ever see this. We have no idea how we have created ourselves the block. Because if you start looking at who we are by beings, we are conscious beings, and those conscious beings have senses, and through senses we experience the experience. So it's difficult for you to access the experience simply because there is some block and a lock in those accessing of those experiences.
Can this be corrected?
Yes, you can. I would not say that, yeah, you can access it because somewhere you have lost it on the way. Many people, including me, I am not trying to say this, I would find it difficult. I can't see, because you only were taught seeing is believing. But there is something called as mind's eye. There is a knowing. There is a feeling. And there is also an active mind that keeps questioning that knowing all the time, because you are trained to think and question everything. So you will not allow that experience, which is one of the reasons many people say past life is all bogus. It's all about money making racket. It may be. But as I'm saying, I am actually coming here on this platform from the space not for proving, disproving anything about past life. Nothing to do with even the theory of reincarnation. I'm coming simply from the experience of what experience you are looking to experience in your life that you are unable to do it. And let's see if that has It's sourced from a certain experience of you which you are not aware of. Which means there is something which is there in the knowing of you. If you start giving a little belief to that, right? And a feeling. Do you feel, Pala? I'm sure you feel. You're a lovely being. I can make out. So you feel good, you feel bad. You know, you have a sense of knowing.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. And then can you also start trusting to know and your knowing and your feeling? There is some entry and some way to access it. And then slowly you can see it. You know, sometimes many people say, I can't see. I said, just give an image to it. If I ask every one of you here, okay, can you see a rose?
Yeah.
Pala said yes. Did I hear that? Yes.
Yes.
I didn't show you a rose.
No.
I can imagine a rose.
Yes, exactly. And how do you know that I told you rose? That how would it look? Because you have your experience of a rose.
Yeah.
And your experience of a rose will be different from Shirley Lamb's experience and Punita's experience and Mr. Khanna's experience and anybody here.
Yes.
Somebody would smell it. Somebody would taste it. I mean, of course, tasting will like, it's a little far-fetched. Somebody would just remember the first time I was given a rose. But some emotions with that are slowly starting. Yes, Pala?
Yeah.
Can you now believe you know it and you can see it? I
Yeah.
have not shown
I
you
do.
anything.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this question. Thank you so much. I never came prepared with this, but I'm grateful to you because somewhere up somebody knows what I'm doing is in good space. Okay, yeah, thank you. Is that making sense to you, Pala?
Yeah, perfectly. Yes.
So you have a lot of lovely regression therapists in your country, and you are welcome anytime in this country.
Yeah, sure.
One of them is sitting next to you. And you're free to ask me questions even later on. You have my contact. Okay, any
Yeah.
other questions? Are you all there?
I think Mr. Harsh has put a question in the chat box.
Yeah, Punita, can you help me?
Is it possible to recognize and know more about one's soul through PLR?
Yes. Again, Harsh, you know, it's a very generic question. The reason is because there's so many aspects of your soul. So it's like, it's really a generic question, but if you want something specific, like sometimes we explore the talents, sometimes the talents which are dreaming talents, there are a lot of sleeping talents. You know, a lot of child prodigies are there, right? So you know that they have just come up on this planet Earth. Some of them we very well know, right? As musicians, as singers, as sports people. So these are child prodigies, and they definitely have this talent coming from somewhere across life, across time and space. And even in this space right now, if you want to explore something about the soul in a certain specific area, as I told you, I deal with transpersonal regression therapy. I will give you a little more brief about it. Is about specificity, because that will give you exact specific experience of that time and space. So what is transpersonal regression therapy? Is about regressing into that past experience of yours, which is not letting you be the personality in the present moment. And hence you need to first have your presence. The moment you have your soul presence, when I say the presence, is the presence of your soul with your body. And then removing all those blockages that you have, like Pala right now connected to some part of her knowing, even though it was a rose. I hope so. Yes, Pala.
Yes.
Don't say yes for the sake of sex, but you
No,
can.
no. From experience, I saw the rose and I know what is rose.
Yes. So the same way you can connect to your soul essence and soul attributes, but we will need to have some little interaction to know what it is about, what you want to explore. Okay, there's somebody writing a lot on the chat, but I can I get some help from Punita or Dolly or anyone who can read it, please? Punita, can you
Yes.
help?
So there is one more question. I think you mentioned at the start about another similar webinar which you had conducted. Could you please share the link of that recording too? This is from Rashna.
Okay,
So,
yeah, it is about all about hypnotherapy. I am right now at a loss to give you right away. Maybe if you can send me your email IDs are there with us, but you can also send me your WhatsApp number. Then I would send you, because they are on my YouTube link. I have a YouTube channel which is Dr. Ameeta, and I think if someone can help, is Manali here?
okay, one moment, Ameeta. Is your email address drameta.thacker@gmail?
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah, if you can write it there, I'm going to write my number as well as that. My help is right now, I told you it's a holiday, and I'll just write down my email as well as I may not be able to copy the channel, but I can definitely share with you my number, and anyone and everyone who would like to connect can. This is my contact number. If I take time to reply to you, that's because I'm somewhere else, very much in this life, but maybe dealing with some other life.
all right. So I think we have another question from VSV. If you have seen a past life which seemed to explain the current circumstances, but yet one is unable to accept the current painful experience, what should be done then?
Yes, I think I get what you're coming from. I did mention somewhere that, sometimes they are extremely traumatic past and it's not very easy, which is why, when you're meditating and you're accessing it, or if you go by some other routes, which are just showing you, this trauma happened, which is a little unkind thing, according to me, to just go and see a past life and come back. So there is a certain way, a systematic way that as a therapist, we take you to deal and heal that trauma. And dealing and healing that trauma is bringing you to peace at the physical level, emotional level, and mental level. So a regression therapy, like any therapy which is psychotherapy, has two aspects. It has catharsis. Catharsis is letting go. And it has wisdom and clarity, which is awareness. And which is one of the reasons this works at a very deep level. It's called as deep healing. So I have learned it from my teacher, Mr. Hans Tandam, who's been the founder of transpersonal regression therapy, as well as my teacher, Mr. Yuvraj Kapadia. And I've been trained under both of them. And we are primarily working with transpersonal regression therapy, which is about not just viewing a past life, not just telling you about a past life, because a lot of people do Akashic records, Akashic readings, which are actually like oral, somebody else is seeing the past life, and which is where you come to know it's so traumatic. Obviously, you're scared to go there. So howsoever traumatic it is, we are trained to take you into a way which is safe. Trust me, it can be safe. We are not here to inject trauma. We are not sadists, but very systematically bring you to a peace. And sometimes some traumas, you go right in the middle of the trauma and you release it. And that release is a great reward for the soul, because it comes with a lot of space that comes with you getting to an access to your soul. I hope I have answered this question. Who has been the person? Can I know, Punita, the name if it's?
It's VSV. This is just the initials.
Yeah, hello.
There she is.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, your name?
Vimala.
Okay, did I answer your question, Vimla?
Yeah, more or less, yes. Thank you. It's just more like if the painful experience is in the current life now, and you just still can't connect, like, okay, yes, you know the past, and so it still doesn't resolve the current situation. So how?
Yeah,
That's more like it.
Thank you for bringing this up, because many of them who have painful, traumatic situations in this life, if I can have the liberty to say, are busy looking at things in the past life. And I would really recommend them that don't be in a hurry to look at that past. Address the past of this life first. You have no idea, even that can open up a lot of resource in you. going back into the source of the issue, either in this life or in the past life, is bring resource to the soul, to your mind, here and now. So there are times we are so traumatized and we are so much caught up in this conflict. Be kind to yourself. And your regression therapist who's trained in a certain manner, as I mean, I can only talk for the tribe that I come from. And that does not mean I'm talking of excluding the others, but I know what it is done there. So a transpersonal regression therapist would certainly ensure that it is done in the most apt way. The common sense says to work with the present life trauma first, and then slowly, it's like if you're already carrying the weight of your this life, how can you go with that weight in the past? It's unkind. It's so traumatizing. I would rather not take you there. So I always say I first function as a therapist, and then I would say, okay, let's unload the past, the weight of this past, this life. You will be having such a rewarding experience because you're free of that. And maybe we'll find out the source of it. Having not reached that source does not deprive you of a little more resource in the present if you've really offloaded that. Is that helping you, Vimla?
Yes.
I wish you good luck and ease.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Anything, anybody else who has a question?
No more questions on the chat box. None on the chat box.
Love to know about karma stuff. Maybe some other day. It's a very intense topic. I may not do a very wise justice to that topic, but yes, someday if there are more people asking, if you all want to be informed, I can invite you in my broadcast list and keep you posted about what I do. Some of you are known to some of you here, like Punita has been telling, a lot of my friends are here. So Punita could be your connecting.
Yes, sure, definitely.
And thank you, Punita, for being that. Trust
Pleasure.
in me
Pleasure.
as trust in the space that I carry. And yeah, you can also connect to me, whichever way. So we'll have some discussion someday. Could you please elaborate on the 6 ways of conducting regression therapy? I have heard of only one. Yeah, so one of them is about Akashic record. One is about working through, just going through the experience of the soul. And sometimes the painful comes up, then they start taking the overview. Now, sometimes just the overview is not essential because the trauma has got embedded in the body. So we have a way to very safely take you through that, which is done in transpersonal regression therapy. Some other regression therapy will just show you and just give you a broader understanding. It's like looking at the movie from far. Okay? Or somebody telling you movie narration. Oh, you know what? That was your movie. Did you know that? You are the hero and heroine of that movie. Or somebody says, come sit in the theater and watch the movie. You are the hero and the heroine. Somebody will take you there for a moment and say, okay, let's go back. It's too much painful for you. So Brian Weiss has a certain different way of working. Great respect to him because he has been a great inspiration to me. But I'm not practicing the Brian Weiss way. As I told you, then we take you through the process. Some people keep going back and back, reliving the trauma, which is also extremely traumatic. So there's an in-between way where we take you through the trauma, we take you through the overview, and we also release wherever required painful memories to be, cellular memories to be released. So that is done purely in transpersonal regression therapy. All the remaining 4 ways are generally either looking from far, or somebody's narration, or somebody going right in the trauma and reliving it again traumatically and traumatizing self. But the balance of which more or less, and holding and bringing back your source and resource back in your present is primarily done with transpersonal regression therapy, which is in 2 ways. One is in the way that we take you through a proper regression route, and there are other techniques that we involve in the regression, transpersonal regression therapy, that takes you to the soul as well. So primarily, in a way, the 5 and 6 belongs to the transpersonal regression therapy. So I practice that part, that school of past life regression, which is transpersonal regression therapy. Well, as a doctor, as a person who's a passionate skeptic, that's what my teacher told me when the first day I joined the course. I had lots of questions. And all my questions came to peace because I could see that it made sense of how I can apply for a therapeutic purpose, for building the presence. And that's where I follow the transpersonal regression therapy. Could you also, so I have answered Rashna's question. Thank you, Pala. I can see that.
We have Jasmina at the end. Jasmina at the end.
Okay, I'm also browsing through. Thank you, Harsh, for this. Thank you, Radhika. Thank you. I answered Harsh. A similar webinar. Yes, I will post it, Rashna. You can take my number, or if you know anyone here, then you can. I'm going to very true. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Ameeta, that is. Thank you, Punita. What if we, Dashmina, what if we see the past, but we stuck in it? No, you cannot stuck. Thank you for asking this question. You just cannot be stuck. So we have a person who is an experienced person in transpersonal regression therapy. Can I call out to her, Shirley Ram? She's been my participant of the class, and she's been through n number of regression sessions. And of course, Punita also has been. I'm not sure we have taken more past life work with you, but we've done some other work. But trust me, it's one of the safest way to do it. As I keep telling again and again, a skilled transpersonal regression therapist will bring you out of the trauma of the past. That is the objective. I am not here to show you your past. I'm here to bring you into the present moment. So why would I want you to remain in the past? In fact, I keep telling them it's not about digging old skeletons. You learn from your history. You learn from your history and you get wise from your history. That's what is my take on past life regression. I believe it's the most progressive way. But after a while, when you have been through enough regression work, you know how to deal with your past, and you will be able to deal with it in a much more wiser way. That's what I'm doing. Every day, I don't go into every past life of mine. I now know what is coming from my past, and I know how to deal with it. Yes, Shirley? Yes, she's nodding. Thank you for being here. So regression is not getting stuck. Regression is actually really taking you into your present. And if your present is the seed of your future, it's taking you into future if you really correctly, aptly, sensibly apply it. Okay. And Punita has urged everybody to have their faces, but I think they are still not, but it's okay, it's fine. Okay, any more questions? I guess, yeah.
Dr. Ameeta, there is so much.
There's so much. Okay, so you are free to leave the questions on my email or on my WhatsApp, if that is so, because I know it's so much. I'm nearly coming to more than 1.5 hours, and I didn't expect that, but I'm very grateful to each one of you today, because I trust you all were listening, and I trust somewhere it touched, somewhere it got connected. And feel free, if some of you want the recording, I will pass on to you. This knowledge is free. This sharing is free. Let it go to anybody and everybody here on this planet. It's something that I got it from my teachers. I got it from all my lovely teachers and friends who were participating in this experience. So I'm willing to share it with anyone and everyone if it can bring some little peace to anyone. So with that note, may each one of you as a soul feel the peace right now, blossom in peace, and find your path, and find all that your consciousness is ready to be awakened with. And thank you so much.